Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors Podcast, your trusted source for outdoor information and entertainment. The Greenway Outdoors is also an internationally syndicated TV show and conservation advocate aimed at bringing millennials and Generation Z into the outdoors. Welcome to the Greenway Outdoors. The Greenway Outdoors Podcast is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Motor Trend's Truck of the Year for the third year in a row. Bass Pro Shop and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. And by Tracker Boats. Fish the best. Hello and welcome to episode 57 of the Greenway Outdoors Podcast. I'm Kyle.
I'm Ryan.
And I'm Jeff.
AJ isn't here. He's in Florida, soaking up the sun.
Without us.
Yeah.
Since when do we take trips without each other?
I don't love it. I don't love it. I miss him. I mean...
we don't miss. We don't miss each other.
No, thank you. Sometimes I go up and I sit at his desk, and I like.
It smells like him.
What I like about AJ is like me and Ryan have our desks. We have nice desk chairs. We have cool desk chairs here that like recline and then have a little footrest, so you can slide up when you're editing and stuff and be more comfortable. AJ, you go up to his desk. He's got like a back support, a foot support, a wrist support, a this support, and he's like, "What's wrong with you?" He goes, "Nothing." And now you can see why.
He's going to be laughing at you when you're an old man and you can't move anymore because your back don't work.
Speaking of things that can't move, there's a polar bear at the Detroit Zoo. Actually, was it the Detroit Zoo? Yes,
yeah,
it was.
It was the Detroit
Zoo.
And don't you just walk over that segue like that? Oh, that's fine. That's good.
No. I'm improving my segues. So
Really?
Actually, this is sort of...
Are you, though?
This is sad, but it is fun. No, it's not funny either. No. It's just sad. Just sad. Yeah. We'll go with just sad. Yeah. I'm mixing up multiple stories here, and some of them are funny. This one is not, so kids, be ready. It's not funny.
So let's just go ahead
and... My serious face. Okay, the Detroit Zoo. Recently, they had a polar bear. His name was Nuka. And then he was 16.
Was it a male polar bear or a female?
Male. 16 years old. 16 years of age. He's been there since 2011. Then there's a female polar bear who's 20. And her name's Anana.
What's her name?
Anana?
What's her name?
Banana. It looks like banana without the B.
I think that's a Rihanna song, right?
Ooh, she was an old lady.
What's my name? Oh, no.
That's actually really funny. That's good for you. That's good for him. You get that?
You didn't catch it, though.
Oh, nah. What's my...
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I've been alive
anyway,
before.
We'll move ahead. So...
You're going to beat that to death more, or you want to keep going?
So, Anana, not from the song, is 20 years old. So the way they describe it is there was a breeding session going on. So
careful there.
Well, I just don't know. Like when you call it a breeding session, it makes me feel like you had it planned out. Like he put flower petals up the side of the iceberg. Like it feels like it was something that was planned. But there was a breeding session that happened. Now, he's been there since, like I said, 2011, and he's lived with and mated with tons of females during that time, which is maybe why she was upset in the first place. So, unfortunately, all jokes aside, during the mating ritual, which I would assume is more normal, but...
Now I'm thinking there's, like, dances in space.
There's no dances. Well, there may have been. I wasn't there. I don't know. Maybe you were watching, weirdo. I don't know. Was there dances or not? But anyhow... all jokes aside, unfortunately, Anana was killed by Nuka during the session. Yeah, I know. Turn for the worse.
The session.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else to call it.
I don't know.
But there's only... This led me to do some research. There's only like between 50 and 60 polar bears in like the zoo community, like at zoos. So the loss of one is a really big deal.
I thought you were going to say, like, overall. Like, wow, I didn't know it was that bad.
No.
Good Lord.
No, that's just what Coca-Cola wants you to think. That and a bunch of weird stuff from their test. But anyhow, that's a current event thing. That's okay, right? Yeah, it's all right. So anyhow, when Jeff goes... I know that I probably pushed it a little
I messed
far.
up.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what the story is.
So there's only like between 50 and 60 in this zoo group and the conservation group. So the loss of one is actually pretty tragic, but they didn't see it coming. Like I said, he's mated with different bears at different times, and sometimes they just freak out and do that. And
rubbed him the wrong way.
It does. Wow. This does go to show you, though, that they are actually wild animals. So it is sad. and hopefully there'll be some more successful breeding, and they can continue to grow those numbers and teach people about polar bears and teach people about conservation. Zoos get a bad rap in general. Like people are like, how could you do that? Because they kind of lump in like Blackfin and SeaWorld, everything into one group. But oftentimes zoos are areas where injured animals are taken to revive. And also, when we was in Yankton. We went there to the conservation center, the fish hatchery there.
Yeah.
In Yankton. And I was talking to the gentleman there, the biologist. I forgot his name right now. But the biologist, that's a long time ago. But in Yankton, South Dakota, and we were learning about the paddlefish there and everything like that. And he said that, 60% of his job is outreach to get people to come into their aquariums, see the fish up close, to learn about the resource, and that education actually helps people care about them. See, if you didn't have zoos and nobody ever saw polar bears, nobody ever saw these animals and didn't have that connection to them as a kid going to the zoo, then they don't care as much about them. It's the same reason why no one cares more about the deer population than hunters, because we see them. They're our resource. That's our ice box, if you will.
We interact with them more than most.
Right. So because of that, we care greatly about the overall herd health. We care greatly about deer in general. And it's kind of like, this is obviously a tragic story, and we've done our best to lighten the mood a little bit. But it does shed some light on the fact of, like, zoos get a bad rap, but they're working hard for this conservation stuff. The people at the zoo were absolutely devastated by this because they grow a connection to these animals. Yeah. And, a lot of times zoos aren't really the bad guys. They're an education place, and they bring a lot of eyeballs to the animals to get people to care about them. And also, like the injured ones and stuff, what are you going to do with them otherwise if you don't have a facility like this? So the idea,
they have a better life there than anywhere.
Yeah. Well,
as far as in the wildlife.
Most of the ones that were in the zoo would have been ripped apart in the wild.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And zoos are often, they do a lot for conservation for like endangered animals. Like they'll have one of the last 15, like there was a white rhino that just recently went extinct. I think there's one female left, and she can't get pregnant now, so that's it.
Oh, geez.
But they had like 14 or 15 of them, and they did their best to try to coordinate getting different ones to different places to try to mate them and whatever. And
right.
Otherwise, in the wild, that most likely would have never happened.
Right.
It's a concerted effort.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny that we've just taken a set group of animals and we're like, those are the coolest, let's make money off of it. Like, kind of looking at the other side of the thing, that's basically what they're doing, and they've turned it into more of a conservation activity.
Yeah.
But it used to just be, I like that animal, let's show it to other people. How many other animals out there are just as cool that we just don't get to see?
Yeah.
That they don't make like plushies of and like
plushies.
Like the little stuffed animals.
I know what it is.
We're just laughing at you.
Sorry, you were big money as a kid and also had Beanie Babies.
I had like 4.
Yeah, but they were all the special ones.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, they were.
I didn't make no money off of them.
He's being humble. That's because you ripped the tags off as soon as you got them, you hoodlum. Now, talking about polar bears, talking about the cold, and talking about the warm-up of... this is another transition. Oh. So this is like an old wives' tale. However, it holds a lot of ground and is actually true. And this is something I learned when I was really, really young.
There's big squirrels, and they live, and they can get huge. They're like 3 foot in size.
The squirrel story is real. We're not going to go down that trail right now, but I saw a 3-foot squirrel. No one believes me. It doesn't really matter.
There's a podcast on it.
I went to a lake with my buddy Joe when we were first, we turned 16. We were all able to go fishing. Jeff couldn't go that day, so me and Joe went. And
yeah, I couldn't go.
You couldn't because you weren't invited, so you could not go. No, so we all go to this lake. Just Joe and I. You weren't there again. And just hammering that home. You weren't there. Me and Joe go to this lake, and it is historically a lousy fishing lake. We went there because it was close to home. It had public access. There's no houses on it. I would darn near call it a giant pond. But our little 16-foot or 14-foot John boat could go in there perfect. No motors allowed, no wake, but we had a little trolling motor, so we tool around in. We had fished there a bunch of times and never caught anything, or just 1 or 2 bass, or nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to really write home about. So this one time we go out, and we end up navigating around the shores, and we did our same thing that we always did. And in this one spot, I cast it, and as soon as the bobber hit the water, because we were fishing with worms and bobber for gills, bluegills, brim if you're from the south. whatever. So we cast, and as soon as my bobber hits the water, boom, it's underwater, keeper-sized gill. I'm like, sweet. I was like, well, I'll toss another one in there. As soon as the bobber hits, boom, another one. Now I'm like, this is crazy because this is a lake where historically we hadn't done that good. Now this was the reason why we went to that lake was because we were in a pinch for time, and the ice had just literally just melted off the lake. So it got me thinking, like, okay, this must be the hot spot on the lake. We ended up getting 20 gills that day, and I've got a picture of it, and I'll show you too. I was all happy, just a stringer full of gills. It's probably blurry because, like I said, this is from a long time ago.
Do you look like you were 8 in the picture?
Well, yeah, because I look 10 now, so it would make sense that I would look 8 then. So we went back like 2 or 3 weeks later to the same spot, and they were still biting when we left, so it's not like we cleaned out the place. Went back and cast there, nothing. Tried around, nothing. We went to other usual spots a little bit deeper and stuff, got a couple more. So then I started researching. I'm like, what makes a spot good or bad in fishing? And I came across this old wives' tale that essentially the northwest part of the lake, and normally depending on, some variables, trees, depth of the lake, stuff like that, but will receive the most amount of sunlight during a day because the way the sun goes up and then goes across the sky.
Okay.
So the northwest corner of the lake will receive the most. Now, looking at the map where we were on that lake, indeed, we were in the northwest corner. I don't know why I said indeed. I sounded all
indeed.
very professor-like of me. And I was like, okay, is there anything to this then? Now, I went over there, and looking around, I also realized that it was a mud bottom, which means it was like a black bottom, which is why I didn't even think I would get anything there, because historically when we caught fish there, it would be near the weeds and stuff like that. And it was too early, I think, for them to be on their beds as well. So it's not like they were on beds, and they wouldn't have done it on mud. They like the harder sand and where they can put the rocks and everything like that. So it wasn't that. I think the dark mud bottom also would have generated more heat because it would have shallower mud bottom, dark, would generate more heat. So I guess in summary, I think it's interesting that old wives' tale of the northwest corner would be the warmest part of the lake during the ice out. So in Michigan, we have ice fishing. Once the ice is melting away, that section of the lake would heat up the quickest. Now, it might only be a couple degrees, about 100 degrees in the Caribbean seas, and the hot bluegills saying, "Ay, papi," they go over there.
Wow.
And that was not bad, right?
No, that was pretty good.
I've been listening to classic Will Smith, so that was going to work its way in one way or the other. None of us were immune from that.
We're all excited that happened.
You're welcome. So just those couple degrees, though, could move them in there, but I think the mud bottom probably increased the temperature even more than that. And it was shallow. So it was like, and it slightly stained.
Yeah,
so a little bit of stained water with a mud bottom, shallower, northwest corner. I bet they were there because the water was warmer there. And then as everything evened out, they went on their way. But it would make sense that would be the warmest section of it. And if you've ever swam in a lake, you know that, like, you feel the water column temperature changes. Like, if you dive down in a lake, you can go from, like, a certain temperature, and it's like a drastic colder, like, as you go down different depths. And the fish are going to have that same thing. And during the warm-up after the ice, it would make sense that they'd be like, let's get it hot in here. So hot to warm up all our gills. They're getting so... I'm just kidding. No more song references for the day. But...
So fish feel temperature.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder if fish feel pain. For more on that, check out our other podcast.
Oh, yeah, we did make it. I'm not proud of you for what you just did. But, yeah, there is a video on our podcast.
I'm promoting other stuff. What do your segues do?
Our segues hurt us, but that's besides the point. Actually, that is true, though. One of our more popular podcast topics that we've covered was, do fish feel pain? And I went in great depth in the science experiments and stuff for that. So check out that video on our YouTube channel as well. Now, Jeff, talking about fish, talking about pain, talking about all sorts of things in the animal kingdom.
I'm very curious as to how you're going to get there.
I haven't got there yet. You got a story on rabbit COVID. Go ahead.
So, rabbit COVID. It's the DNR sent out an email recently that was all about rabbit hemorrhagic disease virus stereotype 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not even looking at notes.
Yeah, right.
I'm proud.
So there's obviously a stereotype 1, you know. They
Yeah.
already got their what is that, South African variant of COVID.
Guy, I don't know. This was your story.
Like they got variants just like COVID does. Trying to bring it back to your weird rabbit COVID thing you made.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyways, so rabbits have this disease. It's kind of similar to there's another hemorrhagic disease that deer get. It was something that happened before CWD,
Okay.
the chronic wasting disease.
Okay.
But happens for rabbits, and it's spreading throughout the Southwest. They had it in the 80s in Europe and in China, I think.
Okay.
And it made its way here. So now it's in the South. It's been happening for the last like 3-4 years. It's this weird. It's kind of like prions. It can live in cold. It can live on just the ground.
So what is
for like
it?
15 months. It's a virus,
Okay.
and it affects rabbits. Any lagomorphs. So rabbits, hares, jackrabbits,
Okay.
all sorts of different stuff. It affects domestic and wild rabbits. So if you have any domestic rabbits, go get your vaccine. They
Eat
can
them
get a
now before they
vaccine
get
now,
it.
too.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Make sure they wash their hands. We do have a DIY for a rabbit mask in the link below. But it's this disease that's been kind of spreading over the last 3 years in the United States. It's in the Southwest, so California, Arizona. I think it's up in Colorado and Utah a little bit too.
Okay.
And then there's one random spot that also happened in the Midwest. I want you to guess where. It's a place we've been.
Medina, Ohio.
It's Medina, okay?
Is
You
it-
should know that.
Is it actually Medina?
Yeah, it's in Medina.
Are you serious?
I know, it was weird. Like,
When you
and it
said
also
Midwest,
happened in one
I felt like
spot.
you would have said Michigan, but you didn't. And then I felt like you would have hinted that my family lived there if you said Wisconsin.
That's
By saying
true.
Midwest,
That's true.
other than that, we're relatively, we don't.
That's true. You'd think we would have gone more places in the Midwest. We branched out further.
Yeah, we
than that.
immediately got away because
Yeah.
Michigan has everything, though.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So it's
But so anyways, it's this disease that causes rabbits to just like randomly bleed out.
oh, wow.
It's
Bleed out of their what?
Internal bleeding.
Oh, okay.
But it's just random, and they can happen in like a day. So they said
So they
they've
get
got
this
rabbits
virus.
that are they're perfectly healthy the day before, and then within a day they're dead. Or it can be up to like 10 days, but a lot of times it happens within one day.
I swear everything kills rabbits, though.
Yeah.
Everything either eats them, they get bit by every type of critter that can,
Yeah.
like fleas and ticks, and
and-
they are just,
They smell awful when you're skinning them too.
Yeah, and then their like behaviors, like how they breed and stuff, it's really
Okay,
beneficial
sicko.
for
Okay,
diseases,
okay.
for
yeah,
spreading
very
stuff.
polar berry.
They don't kill each other when they're done. But yeah, it's a weird disease. It's killing them it's like incredibly contagious.
Yeah.
It's killing them within a day. They did do they were doing a study in California where they were trying to catch rabbits and vaccinate them because they came up with a vaccine.
Okay.
And they caught 270 brush rabbits. It's some kind of
never heard
variation
of
of a brush rabbit that is they thought was either extinct or was like super rare, endangered, whatever. And they caught 270 of them, and we're like,
They thought they were extinct. And
or
they're-
like almost. They were like really close, and then they were trying to catch rabbits and caught 270 of them, and then vaccinated them. So hopefully the vaccine works.
What-
Oh, they like caught them to vaccinate them.
Yeah,
so they're giving them vaccines
yeah,
to rabbits.
Yep.
Who's funding this?
You are
Us,
you are
probably.
stupid. Yeah.
probably taxpayer dollars, I would assume.
Oh, okay. I'm glad my money's going towards shooting.
Well, you
up
don't live in
rabbits.
California, so
Well,
it's not here.
You know, the other thing about rabbits that people don't realize is their life expectancy in the wild is less than a year.
Yeah.
They don't live that long.
Like
Like
that time they managed to breed like 4 times, 5 times.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
yeah, and they literally just go by they're playing the numbers game. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah.
just reproduce as many times as possible because we don't live that long and just keep it going.
So it's kind of like the pig problem down south, where they just don't
Except
stop.
the pigs don't die,
Yeah.
That's true.
And,
and
the
they,
rabbits,
and they also don't die from the diseases. They just carry them.
and the rabbits don't like, cause damage and stuff. So obviously they're not
Well, crops.
as big of a
Ask a
deal
farmer,
here.
jerk. No, just kidding.
I mean, they can't take out a whole farm in a matter of a night.
Yeah, the pigs are definitely worse,
Ugh.
and they're more indestructible.
Yeah.
Speaking
What
of
if
it,
we can figure out a way to give them hemorrhagic? No.
Oh.
probably don't do that. No, I mean, honestly, though, they're blowing up pigs with dynamite, so I'm sure that all the options are on the table.
Yeah, whatever works. I mean, they're destroying everything down there.
They are just the ultimate survivors. Like our sponsor, Ram Trucks. Motor Trend's back-to-back-to-back Truck of the Year. 3 years in a row.
That's 3 times.
Unheard of. Now, a word from our sponsors.
Trust isn't built in a day. It's built over time. The early hours and the late nights. It's built by doing the work and pushing the limits every day. Because the promises we make are the promises we were built to keep.
If you'd like to help support the Greenway Outdoors, please like and comment on this podcast and subscribe to all of our channels. Welcome back to the Greenway Outdoors podcast, episode 57. So we do our best to not get into politics on this show. I'm terrible at it. Sometimes I can't help myself. But when it comes to hunting and fishing and outdoors, there's a tool that we have in our hands oftentimes when we're out hunting, and it's called a weapon, a gun. And we use guns. We shoot guns. We practice with guns. We grew up with, we all grew up in households where gun safety was taught and enforced by our parents, and we learned how to respect the weapon, respect the gun, and take care of things. So right now, obviously there's a wave of executive orders going on from President Biden and has everybody a little bit concerned. So what I wanted to do was kind of break them down and kind of give our thoughts on them and maybe break them down in a way that isn't done through the news with a bunch of bias.
Good.
So the first one is in regards to ghost guns. So ghost guns, so when Casper, no, I'm just kidding. Ghost guns means a gun that doesn't really have a serial number, often made by somebody. They can make them with 3D printers now, or
like
people.
Kits
Yep.
they have.
People can do them with kits, and those guns are the ones that they want to get rid of, are the ones that they can't track through serial numbers and that sort of thing.
Right. So there's a few flaws in the serial number idea.
Okay.
That you can track that somehow. I guess if you were 3D printing a handgun, which would be incredibly difficult for like a regular person to do, because basically you have to buy the metal or like the hard metals.
Yeah.
And figure out a way to make that into something.
Sure.
So that's extremely like any of us wouldn't be able to do without an extreme amount of work. So
that's on the 3D printing side.
Correct. Of the ghost guns, yes.
Yeah.
So for your average criminal to be able to get something like that and do something, if they're using that gun, you have way bigger problems.
If they're smart enough to do that, they're probably not going to do that.
Well, honestly, probably they have bigger problems because you're 3D printing a gun. I don't know if you've ever seen anything that was 3D printed before, but it's not like smooth, wow, it looks like a gun from the store. It looks like overlaid material that you have to like sand down or file down or whatever in order to get it to, and I don't know if you're making parts and then putting them together or whatever.
Basically.
But like, yeah, I'm sure it can be done, but that weapon itself is probably pretty dangerous.
Yes.
Because you have to put it through testing. You have to
right.
Accurate.
So
just the accuracy alone.
Yeah.
More so what I meant by that is if someone's made this gun and is using it, it's likely they're part of an organization.
A big one.
Yeah, some sort of gang or
resources.
cartel or something like that. So for you to be worried about that specific gun, you should probably be worried about what they're a part of more so, which obviously the government is. But as far as like it being a real issue in the United States right now, it's not.
Okay. So that's the one side. Now the kits, however, have been done for a very long time, and it's a very popular way to put a gun together. AR-15s can be put together. You know, you can buy uppers and lowers and have different pieces and basically construct it through these kits.
Right.
It's been going on for a long time. And to my knowledge and looking at all the stats and stuff, they don't play any significant role in any of the statistics as far as gun violence goes.
Right. Usually a lot of the gun violence isn't done with rifles like that. It's mostly handguns and just thugs within big cities.
Now, what stuck out to me about this law, when I was breaking it down, was I was like, okay, they don't want people 3D printing guns. They don't want guns from kits, which I think is ridiculous because it's like a really fun thing and cool thing to do, and it doesn't make that gun any more dangerous than any other. So I don't quite understand it. But how you can enforce it was my thing. That's like an unenforceable law unless you happen to stumble upon something, or if they were already in your house looking, or it's not like there's a trackable thing to get you for doing it.
Right, and that's the issue with it. They say, well, we can't have these guns that you create at home because of the serial number and blah, 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 all this. Well, the other issue is, say you go to a gun store and you buy an AR, the serial number is recorded there at that facility.
Sure.
It's only at the point of sale that serial number is recorded. So after it leaves that store, it could be in anyone's hands. There's no way to track it. And if someone is planning on doing bad things and gets their hands on a gun, it doesn't matter whether we have it. You start registering all guns or not.
Right.
It's still not it's this common theme and same issue is always that if someone wants a gun, they're going to find a way, whether it's breaking into a house and stealing it or getting it off of somebody. It's always the same problem.
Yeah. So breaking it down in summary, one, I don't think it makes any sense. It doesn't make the streets safer because if someone's 3D printing a gun or someone is buying a gun kit or doing these sorts of things, and putting a gun together, that is a sporting hobby. And the people that tend to do those things, the sporting hobbyist, if you will, the people that would take the time to 3D print a gun, the people that would take the time to buy a kit, are probably enthusiasts and not dangerous individuals.
And not statistically the ones that are committing crimes.
And it also isn't likely that you could enforce this. And at the end of by enforce it, I'm almost describing, like, when I say enforce, it'd be hard to enforce. I mean, it would be hard to catch somebody doing it.
Yeah.
Not it would be hard. It would be like, by taking these off, there'll be less violence and stuff like that. What I'm literally talking about is it would be hard to enforce, meaning it would be hard to catch a guy doing it, even though he did nothing wrong with the gun.
Right.
Even though he just did it so he could have a hobby. Even though he did it so he could have fun. It would be hard to catch him for having that fun, for having put that gun together. It's an absolutely insane thing. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make the street safer. It wouldn't have prevented any mass shootings.
No.
It wouldn't have prevented any criminals from getting guns. It wouldn't have stopped any mental health issues or people acquiring them that way. Therefore, I give a big X on that one, that it makes literally no sense. The only thing that scares me about it is, let's say, depending on where this goes, let's say they make it where that if you own that gun, it's illegal now.
Right.
And all these, what is there, 40 million? I can't even imagine the millions of, kits and stuff out there, the people that have them. Are they now criminals for having possessed those?
That's what they want.
And what does that look like? Is this law for no other reason than to make it so a bunch of law-abiding citizens would now have a felony unless they go and pay an outrageous fine or turn in their guns that they purchased completely legally? And that's rolls right into the second executive order. So obviously we give a big fat X on the first one. The second one is the pistol stabilizing brace. So I didn't know much about this.
Yeah.
In doing research, Jeff, you found that it was actually
it's so stabilizing braces for pistols were initially made. Well, I mean, they can help increase accuracy, but they were made to help people who are paraplegic and people who have other disabilities to be able to still use a handgun.
right.
Like it straps to your arm, to your upper arm, so that you can still, say you lost your left arm and you only have your right arm now.
Okay.
So you're still able to, have some stability while you're firing a pistol, whether you're an enthusiast or, you're doing some other kind of hunting or whatever the case is. So you're gonna take that away from people who are either paraplegic or handicapped, and now they just can't shoot guns. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Now there's specifics on it too for people that already own it. Go
We'll
ahead.
insert some pictures just so it's easier to understand if you don't know what it is. But like you said, it was made for people who are disabled in some sense. It makes it easier for them to manage and hold the gun. And so what it is it's a stock that comes up to your bicep area on your arm. Sometimes they're on your forearm or wrist, and it velcros around your arm, so it secures it on. It's not a butt stock. A butt stock goes up to your shoulder. So what the ATF decided is that if
I think you mean the AFT.
it depends on who you are.
Yeah. Oh, because Biden called it the wrong thing.
Yeah,
Nice.
a few times.
Yeah. Isn't that the teachers thing, the AFT?
It's a Teachers Federation.
Yes.
American Teaching Federation. Yeah, something like that. Anyways, so what the ATF decided was that if you are using one of these braces, pistol braces, that wraps around your arm, it's shaped like a stock, your regular butt stock. If you take it and you're holding the gun and the end of the stock is sitting here, completely legal. If it goes
out
like
from your shoulder,
completely off your shoulder, as long as it's not touching your shoulder, it's fine. So it could be this far away. Yeah. As soon as it goes like this and it's touching your shoulder, felony. You're done.
It's a piece of plastic, though.
You're arrested. Say goodbye to guns. That's what that's the breaking point for this gun. It is simply just that. So obviously the people who use these are like, what's happening? You're upset about some Velcro and plastic, and if you're using one of these pistol braces and you think and you're looking at it from the point of view that it's dangerous, that someone can put it against their shoulder and that's what makes it illegal, they're an idiot. Because I'm not trying to give tips or advice on these sorts of things, but short-barreled guns are not accurate.
Yeah.
No matter how they're positioned on your body.
The longer the barrel, the more accurate the gun.
Correct.
Yeah.
So for that to be an argument is,
well,
I don't find it.
I don't
sufficient.
understand. When did we become so numb to reality that the idea of a gun being accurate was a bad thing? What? Would you rather guns be inaccurate? Would you rather us be less accurate with guns? Yeah. If you really want people to be able to protect their Second Amendment, have the Second Amendment, and keep and bear arms, you want them to be as accurate as possible. That seems like common sense to me. This law also doesn't make sense because it is plastic and a brace. It's Velcro and plastic that helps you be stabilized. It helped people, as Jeffrey said, why it was invented in the first place. And I got to be honest with you, I've seen a lot of news stories. I've seen a lot of different things, and I've never seen someone walking around with a stabilizing brace causing a mass shooting with a pistol.
It's never been a problem.
No. So it doesn't actually solve gun violence. Again, this is another thing where it seems like they're not going after any real issues. It seems to me like they're picking up things that you would never imagine would be illegal, making them illegal, and then if you possess them, are you a felon?
Yeah.
And what is that? And why would they want everybody that owns these to suddenly be a felon?
Right. And so a few things. One, for people who actually need these braces, say you have a veteran who was over in the Middle East, he became disabled through some event. He lives at home alone, and he wants to make sure he has a way to protect himself. Now you're taking that away from him. Now he can't sufficiently,
not just taking it away, making him a felon if he keeps it.
Right. And so I in my eyes, the end goal of this thing is you're making all these small, easy things illegal, and if people possess them, now they're a felon. So it's a scare tactic. You're just scaring people into like, okay, now there's such a hassle on knowing all the rules of guns and what I can and can't do that I don't even want one. Why would I need one? I'm just going to get in trouble no matter what I do.
That's a fear I have with some hunting policies. You know, people go out and they want to go duck hunting, and they go to Walmart and they ask the people at Walmart, you know, what tags do I need? And they're like, oh, you need you need your migratory bird, your waterfowl, and your base license. And they don't mention the federal stamp, and they don't mention it, and then they go out and get in trouble.
And you're going to an officially licensed distributor for licenses, so if you ask,
you should be able to ask.
They should know, or they should say they don't know.
Right.
You know,
so you run into those things where it's like with hunting, especially where people get confused and licensed, and we do our best to educate people, and that's one of the things is like with our show is we're always trying to bring people in and educate them on that so they know what they need, because you can make a mistake. Now, I will say this. The interactions we've had with DNR officers have always been pretty positive, actually. They've never been really rough on us. And in those,
mind you, we follow all the rules.
yeah, but in those situations, I think a lot of them would be like, "Oh, you also need this. Make sure you get that. Here's a warning," or something like that. But it's like it can be tough, and making all these rules, like you're saying, making it complicated. But the law makes no sense for obvious reasons. And even if it's just so someone that came back from the military or something doesn't like you, that scenario that you laid out so well, Ryan. Even if it for nothing else for them, leave them alone. Like I don't understand. This doesn't make anyone safer.
No.
There's no one.
And there's
the people shooting up Chicago every weekend, murdering people,
right.
are not using this. What are you talking about?
Right. And then now the argument is that in the past year, crime has gone up something like 2,000% across the United States, and it's being blamed on gun violence. Well, if you look into the specifics of those events and all this crime, look at what happened this past year. You had COVID. You had the human rights incidents, and then you had riots. Yeah. This crime is directly related to the riots,
right?
And I'm not going to take a stance on whether on that specifically, but
there was more crime because there was riots.
Correct. It's as simple as that. And so now you have all these anti-gun people using that as their ammunition, so to speak, on why we shouldn't have guns. When it's been proven time and time again, the more you get rid of guns, it opens up more opportunity for crime and people who don't follow the rules and laws to take advantage of those people. Because like in Chicago, they have the strictest gun laws in the United States. And after they really started to lock down on those laws, you saw a huge rise in crime because these criminals knew no one could protect themselves. So they're taking advantage of that and doing whatever they want. So
and it's tried and true. You can look at the statistics, as you're pointing out, Ryan, is where the least amount of gun crime takes place is where the most amount of legally owned firearms are possessed. Period. Right. The more guns, the more armed citizens. And this isn't like an opinion. It's not like, well, no, that's ridiculous. Everybody shouldn't be out wielding guns. It's like facts really don't care about feelings. And at the end of the day, where the areas are where everybody has guns, there's no gun crime. And the areas where you're not allowed to have anything, there's a ton of it. And that means criminals don't follow laws. It's like the funny, like when I have this debate with people, I'm like, oh, so like up until recently, obviously, I can't use it anymore. But actually, I still can. It was great. But I'll be like, okay, so you're right. Those guns should be illegal, and then no one will have them, just like marijuana, right? No one smokes weed, right? Nobody does, right? Because it's illegal. Yeah. Cocaine, not here. Heroin, no.
Right.
No fentanyl, nothing. What's up?
The people who want to break the law are going to break the law, whether you tell them they can or not.
So, yeah, well, we put the speed limit signs out there, and no one speeds, so we're good to go there.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's absolutely silly. And then the third executive order, and the scariest to me, was the red law one. So
the red flag law, yeah.
Yeah, so essentially what this means is if somebody says, hey, I don't know about this person, hey, this person makes me nervous, or the cops have a feeling about something, they can just come and take your guns in case. So basically...
just in case.
Well, what they're doing is they're actually...
I feel like we should do it some more justice by explaining what it is.
Sure, go ahead.
So basically how it works is, say your neighbor's with somebody. They kind of sketch you out a little bit, make you a little nervous. You're like, I know they have guns. He's making me uncomfortable based on how this person is. Like, and how they've been
Anybody
behaving.
that lets their dog pee through the fence onto my side's got to be no good.
Yeah. And that's basically what it is. Or you're at a doctor's visit, and the doctor's like, ooh, I don't know about this person. They're kind of making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
They would then be able to call law enforcement and be like, hey, I'm worried about this person. I don't feel like they're safe to society. Look into how many guns they have and what they've got going on. If the law enforcement deems it necessary, they can then go to your house, take all your weapons until they evaluate you, and then maybe you can get your guns back. If not, goodbye. You're done with guns.
Years to get your guns back.
Correct.
Yeah, it's never an easy process. You ever gone to the Secretary of State? Now multiply that by 1,000,000.
Yeah. So, and then I'm sure from that point on, you'd have a stamp on your back that basically says, "Be scared of this person, even if you've done nothing wrong." So it's basically guilty and proven until proven innocent.
Yeah, it's so interesting too, because you get somebody like Ted Nugent, let's say, very outspoken, conservative, very loud conservative, very strong feelings on gun laws and stuff like that. What would stop anybody from calling on him and saying, like, I don't trust him? From the other side, obviously, we love the guy. But let's say from the other side, they're like, oh, let's get this guy.
Yeah.
They could.
And it would happen.
And then they could. And then they could just get this guy. So anybody can just get got.
Yeah.
And what does that look like? You have a disagreement with someone. Like, for instance, let's say someone doesn't like our TV show or a competitor TV show. Obviously, this probably never happened, but I'm just saying, like, they're like, forget Kyle Green, man. I don't like this guy. I don't want him to be able to, I want to beat his show. I don't want him to be able to hunt anymore. Whatever it might be. And then, boom, put that on me. That gets put in the news. Boom, we're done.
Yep.
Out. And we didn't even do anything wrong. It's like, well, you coulda.
Yeah.
What? And that is, I mean, at what point can you imagine looking our founding fathers in the eyes and be like, well, here's what we think of guns now and your Second Amendment. And they'd be like, you're no longer allowed to have control here. I'm taking back over. We're coming in.
Yeah.
The British are coming. This is over with.
It's literally the movie Minority Report.
It
where
is.
They just, people are going to commit crimes, so they just arrest them. It's like, well, but you don't know.
Right.
So how
are you going to do that?
Everyone's okay with it. With people who don't like guns are okay with it until it happens to them for some other reason. Then all of a sudden it's bad now.
I was thinking about it too. Like, one of the places you're not allowed to take guns is like into a church, right?
Yeah.
You're not allowed to have guns in church. I was sitting there one day, and you hear about that one church that was shot up.
Yeah.
Guy ran home, got a gun, came back, and stopped the guy, but he didn't have a gun with him.
Right.
In the church. If he would have, how many people would have been saved? And I was sitting in church the other day, and I was like, man, I would want everybody here that practiced, understood how to handle a gun, understood hunter safety, understood gun safety, went through some training, had a CPL course, practiced, got good with their weapon. Everybody that would commit their life and their time to that, I would like to be armed in this building.
Right. Exactly.
Why would you not want that? I feel so much safer.
Otherwise, you're just a sitting duck.
And any way you cut it, where there's the most guns from legal citizens carrying the guns, you have the least amount of crime. Therefore, by adding laws that don't make any sense, that makes those legal law-abiding citizens technically a felon until this whole thing gets worked out, make absolutely no sense and doesn't do anything to better us, keep us safer, or protect us the way that I'd like to think the way that they think it would.
Right.
I'd like to think that they're not just signing laws that won't help us, but it's really hard to see how any of these. It's as if they put a big old wheel on the wall and they're just like with a bunch of stupid ideas and they just spun it and they're like, all right, it's the plastic braces and Velcro.
Yeah.
That's got to go.
Well, using the same logic they use, there's more crime committed with knives than there is with not just like assault rifles or automatic rifles, but with any rifles.
Right.
There's more crime with knives. So why wouldn't you then go after knives? Like where's the logic in this? There's nothing says that what they're doing is going to reduce crime. We have stuff that says the opposite. Like they banned assault rifles or automatic rifles in the 90s.
When Bill Clinton was in office, he banned assault rifles, as they call them. That's actually not what they're called, but he banned, for instance, the AR-15. They were illegal for a while. That went on, and then when that law was taken away,
they just expired.
Bush got a different president and stuff. When that law went away and they were no longer illegal, crime actually fell.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, most of the, like you said, with knives, and then in cities, in big cities where people are not allowed to arm themselves, people are killed with handguns, most likely. Not ARs, not anything like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you look at the murder numbers in Chicago, I remember I looked at the statistics one time and it was like there were more people killed in Chicago than all of the soldiers killed in Afghanistan during the same amount of time span. And it's like, what is going on, and why does no one talk about that? And it's sad, and there's a very simple way to fix it. Have a few Texans come up and straighten out the laws and fix everything and teach everybody what to do, and you'd be a lot better off.
I believe that these politicians genuinely believe that they're helping people. I think that they think they're doing a good thing.
I hope you're right. I don't know that that's true for all of them, but I hope you're right.
I really do think that they think this is the way to go and this will make us all safer. I just don't have that trust.
The plastic brace.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's completely ridiculous, but that there's someone talking in their ear saying, here's how it is. This is what we believe, and this is how we'll be safer. When realistically, I think the issue across the country, as far as people doing the mass shootings, our attention should be directed to mental health, not what's being used.
Right.
Because if someone wants
the common denominator is a person with mental health issues every single time.
Right.
It's illegal to actually shoot somebody, right? It's illegal to shoot somebody. So every time someone it's illegal to stab somebody, right? It's illegal to attack somebody, right? So those laws are in place. They're just not working. So what do we do is find the denominator between the thing. Any scientific study would teach you this. You know, you would look at the data and be like, what's the common denominator? A mentally unstable person. That's what it takes to shoot somebody else.
Who thinks it's okay.
So that's what we have to solve. You solve that problem, you solve everything.
And what's crazy is most of the people, the biggest mass shooters across this country, have been diagnosed in some way with some sort of mental illness, and they took medication for that.
Right.
There's always been this underlying issue amongst these people, and I don't think the United States has given enough attention to that, specifically that mental health is the issue, obviously. Because like you said, anyone who would go and do an act like that... It's the only
common denominator.
Right. And disarming people and making themselves vulnerable and useless in those situations is not the right way to go. I think it's I think it's Switzerland that doesn't have a military. They have a standing militia. So they arm the general public.
Sounds meaner.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? But because everyone knows that most people have guns in their household because of the militia,
right?
There's an incredibly low amount of crime because no one wants to go into a house and steal their stuff because they know that it's likely they'll get shot.
And it's like I said, that is no different than like saying, the areas with high gun ownership. We have the same thing everywhere. It is the same thing everywhere. It's how it will always be. And until we can focus on the one problem, which is the mental health, and put every single ounce of effort we can into fixing that issue while simultaneously letting people protect themselves and their families.
Right.
That's really the only formula that seems to work. So with that, I want to thank you for tuning into the Greenway Outdoors podcast. If you're just listening to this on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, you can actually watch it on YouTube and Carbon TV. I'd like to give a special thanks to Ram Trucks, Tracker Boats, and Bass Pro Shops for supporting us and making this podcast possible. It's very important to us, too. If you could like, subscribe, comment, engage with us on the podcast, let us know what you'd like us to talk about. Those things really help us in the algorithms that are on all the social platforms so that more people can see our brand, see our product, get our message out about hunting, fishing, conservation, and today, gun laws. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay green, enjoying having you all listening to the Greenway Outdoors podcast. Thanks.